Okay, it's the end of the session. I'm here. This is Gage. We primarily worked with this guy right here, though, Magnus, and what we call him Mags as well. Damn. And this is their roadmap to success. Now, Mags basically was adopted. Well, the breeder got him from a breeder at 6 weeks old. It's illegal to get a puppy for earlier than 8 weeks. He's obviously he's 8 or 9, so this has been quite a while, right? He's 8. But if you ever get a dog, it should never come to you under 8 weeks old. Unless something happened to the mother, that's a little redirected. That's a little, not a regression. That's just like, he's mine. I'm going to take the treats. Leave him alone. He's a little bit of a petulant dog. So I think he had some social development issues because he wasn't around his siblings, his mother, from weeks 7 and 8, which are the last 3 weeks of being in a puppy is crucial. On top of that, he was adopted from a breeder from a farm. I usually like to make sure that the dog lived in a house because there's so many sounds and sights, and you get a lot more exposure to humans. I find that dogs are from raised on the farm are a little bit more twitchy and skitchy, and he kind of falls in that category. He's also his breeder breeds police dogs. And he probably should have been a bomb dog or something like that. He's got a lot of energy. He's 8 now. He's finally settled down, but he still has a lot of energy. And those dogs do a great job if they have a job, and that's what they feel great. These dogs sometimes are difficult to have as pets. Thankfully, the guardians have been going out of their way and doing what they need to do to take care of him, and I'm really happy that they invited us to come in and help. So what we talked about in the session is really kind of trying to create a healthy leader-follower dynamic and not doing it with any force or punishment, because that's not what I do. And so we just used a lot of dog psychology, a lot of operant conditioning. So first thing we talked about was exercise. He's a little bit like me, carrying a little bit more weight than he would like. So you can use some fresh green beans. So put in his food, chop up those green beans, and then you can substitute about 10% of his food away and put those green beans in. I wouldn't probably put too many green beans in the snuffle mat. You can. You'll shake it out afterwards to see what's left over. If he's leaving a bunch, maybe save that for when you go back to the bowl, or you feed him in the bowl. And we'll talk about the snuffle mat here in a sec. But basically, for exercise, it should be 90 minutes after eating, 90 minutes after the exercise. So some of the forms of exercise we talked about doing would be a snuffle mat. I guess we'll talk about it now. Is physically draining. If a dog uses its nose, it controls 60% of their brain, and it helps them. It's relaxing for them. So snuffle mat would be great to feed them out of at least one meal. And I'll talk about meals, I guess, a little bit when we get to the rules section of this little video. We talked about the walk. He goes for walks, but right now they take the same path, and they do what a lot of guardians do, which you think about the completion of a circuit as the finish of the walk. For dogs, it's very draining and satisfying and stimulating for them to sniff. But if we're trying to make it around the block or the circuit as quick as we can, we don't let them sniff as much, and they burn more energy from sniffing than they do from actually walking. So I'd like you to start thinking about the walk as a duration. I'm going to walk down this road for 10 minutes, 15 minutes, or however long I have, half of however long I have. If I only have 10 minutes, I'm going to walk for 5 minutes, and I'm letting the dog sniff as much as it wants. When it gets done, I turn across the street and come back the other, so there's fresh sniffs, and the dog gets to sniff the whole way. You'll find that when you're not on the urgency, it's actually a little bit more relaxing for us as humans as well. And so basically, so exercise, I'd like to see him getting at least 2 walks a day. Now, Gage needs some exercise as well, just not to the same extent, and it'd be best to walk them separately. But try to, like I said, incorporate that, even if it's just 10 minutes in the morning, 10 minutes in the evening, that's great. We'd like to see a lot more. Remember, exercise is best sprinkled in short or in multiple sessions sprinkled throughout the day. Now, if the vet is okay, and I want you to check with your vet on all these exercise options, make sure that they're comfortable because he has some hip issues. But another one that I do is called a doggy stairmaster. I go to the top of these stairs, I show him I have a treat, and I throw the treat so it lands down here. And again, have the dog separate because I don't want Gage to get in trouble or have him go after Gage. When he comes down and licks it up, say the word Jamaica, which means to go down south. Or down the stairs, I call it Jamaica. Then the dog comes back to the top of the stairs, give it another one, call it Canada or North Pole or whatever you want, and a word that means go up the stairs. And with an empty stomach, throw him up and down the stairs until he just looks at you, you're crazy. I've another 77 times, not going down anymore. Now we know what his maximum number is. We want to exercise him 50 to 75% of that maximum number multiple times a day. 5 minutes on the stairs is equivalent to like a 30-minute walk. Now, because we have a shorter flight of stairs, I might be even further back. I might be like 10 paces back from the top of the stairs, so there's even more duration. And you can throw it pretty good and have it hit the wall where basically where the camera is now, and it lands there. Other things you can do is scent games, Google scent games. There's a bunch of options for that. And remember, exercising him before the walk can really set him up for success, or before you have people come over. Before people come over, spend 5 minutes on the stairs, then give him 10 minutes to recover before the people arrive. That's going to make it a lot easier for him, probably less redirected aggression towards Gage and the whole 9 yards. Treat puzzles, those sort of games where the dog has to move a lever or do different things like that in order to get access to the little kibble or treat or food that's underneath. Those are also great motivation, and great develop problem solving and boost confidence, and it's stimulating and burns energy. So it accomplishes 4 or 5 different things. All right, we also talked about starting an exercise journal. Remember to keep that for about a month. Write the day at the top, column for each dog, and Gage needs to be getting exercise as well, just not the same extent. So we write down how much exercise, how long his walk was, and then we also write down the number of up, downs on the stairs, scent games, whatever it is, what time we feed him, and then anything that noteworthy that goes on, especially if it's negative. So if he barks at the neighbor's dog at 9:15 in the morning, we write that down. Bark at the neighbor's dog, also the other neighbor's mowing the lawn. Write down a little bit more detail. The idea for the journal is to collect data so you can start looking. You know, every time there's the leaf blower, that's when he freaks out. Or every time it's longer than 4 hours since he's gotten exercise, that's when he freaks out. As a matter of fact, when he is naughty, or if he's like chirping at him or doing a lot of demand barking, that's a pretty safe bet he probably needs some energy burned. So instead of saying he's naughty or chastising him, go outside and play a little fetch. Now, the Guardians have been using something called an anxiety ball, which I've never heard of. I'm going to research it a little bit, but he's broken off 2 teeth on it. And I find that balls that are too big to go in a dog's mouth for dogs that have anxiety problems create a lot more anxiety. And so if he's breaking his teeth off, I don't care how beneficial. I mean, I don't know. It might have been beneficial. He might have been more of a basket case. I think he's kind of calmed down because of his age. But if he's breaking teeth off and injuring himself, he shouldn't. There are other tools and things you can use, like the snuffle mat, omega treat ball, where treats come out of it if he nudges it just right. Things that don't require, physical dominance or aggression. We want to kind of more finesse, for lack of a better word. So one of the ways we went over flipping the leader-follower dynamic, remember to give a letter grade at the end of the day for your journal and keep that for a month. Then you start noticing, like I said, those trends. And after a month, you'll kind of figure out how much exercise each dog needs, how to program that in your day-to-day life, and something that's reasonable that you can achieve. And then we can kind of get him the exercise he needs, especially even if it's really crappy here in Nebraska during the winter. Okay, we also talked about a number of rules. The dogs really don't have very many rules. The Guardians do a good job of having a rule waiting for them to eat, but I'd like to see us adding more structure to it. So for eating, it's the most important activity for dogs. So what I'd like to do is, since he's bit when his Guardians have tried to correct him, we wanted to create a scenario where we're not going to have that as an exposed problem. So basically, there's a little baby fence that he just won't come near. So what I would do is I would have Gage eating first, because Gage is the older dog. Now, Gage is a lazy eater and a slow eater. And so the Guardians actually pick up his food, but that can kind of actually contribute to the process. Now, we have to do it because Mags here will eat all his food. Mags needs, like I said, not to eat quite so much food. So what I would do is start feeding in order of rank, and I'm going to feed Gage first. So we're going to put Gage in the kitchen, and then maybe use that baby gate and have it across this doorway here. And so while Gage is eating, we're going to have a clock for him. So once he goes and sniffs his bowl, he's on the clock. As soon as he moves more than 7 feet away, or 5 to 7, depending on space, we pick up the bowl, we dump it empty, and we put the empty bowl back down. Getting an elevated feeder might help with some of the pawing the bowls around and all that. So what you're saying is when it's time to eat, you better eat, because the food's not going to be around long. Dogs often, a lot of people over-encourage the dog to eat, and the dog's like, oh, this is a great way to get your attention. By not eating, you spend 5 minutes trying to get me to eat, and that's good attention. I like that. So we make it available, call his name a couple times, but if he doesn't come within a minute or two, then I pick it up, dump it back in the container, then he vacates the area. And be careful when you're coming through this transition, especially if Mags is worked up. So then once he gets done eating, he has to leave, and then we invite Mags in, and we feed him with the snuffle mat or the treat dispensing toys. I like an omega treat ball. I have one that's like a dumbbell, so the dog has to, the holes are on the end, so you have to move it end over end to get a couple pieces of kibble out. There's one that have a pyramid. There's a whole bunch of different shapes and sizes, different puzzles. We want to feed him and make him work for his food. That will boost his self-esteem. And if he's using a snuffle mat, that's physically draining, another activity that we can do where it doesn't take a lot of our time. And it also it has a boost of self-esteem and confidence because he's earning that food. So that's eating, and make sure the guardians are eating something first. So all I have to do is they do that for dinner, but for breakfast, just eat something 5 or more bites. Chip, cracker, piece of celery. Other rules, not being allowed in the furniture. Get those X mats, put those up there, and that way just both dogs are off the furniture for a minimum, and for all these rules, at least 90 days, or as long as the problem's still going on. So once we get past this, then maybe in a month, maybe 3 months, maybe we can start inviting Gage up on the furniture, and that helps Mag see him having a little bit more authority. Now, if he barks out or he protests for that, then that might be an issue. But I think if the more, we've had a month or two to help him get on the right track with all the stuff I'm going to talk about in this video, he shouldn't be so much demand barking, which is basically a temper tantrum. And remember, when he's reactive, he's hysterical. He's not going to hear anything. He's not going to learn anything. The best thing to do is just pull him away from whatever it is. Take note of what the situation is so you can recreate it in an easier way and teach him how you want him to behave. Message me, I'm happy to go over that with you. But once he's reacting, don't try to tell him no, we're good, or any of that stuff. He's not going to hear anything. Just increase the distance. Also remember, anything he's doing when you pet him, either dog, is what you're reinforcing. Pet him when he's anxious, he's going to continue to be anxious. So come up with a watchword that you can use amongst yourselves that means you're petting the dog at a time when the dog is worked up. You can call it just, psychiatrist or anxiety or stress or whatever it is, and that means you should stop petting. You can lay your hand on your dog, and they do associate that touch with affection. As soon as you start petting, though, you're going to make it worse. So, all right, so not being allowed on the furniture, and then after that period of time, with an invitation only for good behavior. Order the X mats on Amazon. Everybody who tries to do this without, especially for him, we don't want him biting when we try to correct him. So we put those up on the furniture. He won't get up there, and at the same time, use the technique I showed you for the dog bed. After a while, he'll just start using the dog bed consistently and stop trying to get on the couch because it's never available. After 3 months, a new behavior pattern will be formed. At that point, you might decide, I don't want him on the furniture. Other rules is he shouldn't be in the kitchen when we're preparing food, shouldn't be allowed around the dining table when we're eating. So maybe when you're cooking food, we have the gate up here, and I'm gonna have a little twist to it with him out here and you're back there. Or when you're eating, maybe you put him back there and put the gate up so he stays back there. It's inappropriate for your dog to be within 7 feet of us when we have a high value item or another dog. So if Gage has an item and he goes near Gage, you should try to disagree with that. Now, again, we don't want to disagree with him because of his proclivity to biting. I think that's going to subside once we create a healthy leader-follower dynamic, but err on caution. So the best thing to do is show him you have a treat and throw it over there so he goes over there, but try to let the other dog have something where there's a barrier. Have that baby gate. It sounds like that's a really good thing. I don't want to use it too much, but if he's trying to get close, go get the baby gate and put him in between, and then use the baby gate to not physically move him, but the aura of the baby gate gets him to move away. Now, while we're putting the baby gate up here, like while he's in there eating, well, he's out here eating when Gage is in there eating and Mags is out here. At first, it should cover eclipse the whole deal. Then after a while, it's only to here and then to here. So gradually, we want this opening, maybe the opening would be better on the other side, but basically, it's gradually going to be open and open more and more. And so the goal is we want to have the end result where even though there's nothing but air between me and his food, I don't go in there because I'm been conditioned not to go in there. Okay, so those are some examples. The last rule is for the door. So you go to the door, and there's other rules. So again, try to look for other rules. And I think of this rule at the door as the formula or the template that I want you to use. So Mags wants to go outside. I don't want to go outside. So I go to the door and I tell Mags to sit 1 time. If he doesn't sit within 3 seconds, I walk away and I sit down nearby and I wait for 1 minute. Then I go back and try again. I tell him 1 time to sit. If you repeat it, the more you say it, the less you mean it. So now I say sit, and I wait 1 minute the second time. If he doesn't sit this time, I walk away for 2 minutes. And when you walk away, make sure you're seated. Next time I'll walk away and sit down for 4 minutes, then for 8 minutes. I keep double the length of time till eventually, when I go to the door and say sit, he sits down, and as soon as he does, fly that door open as fast as you can. After a while, he'll go sit at the door as his way of saying I like to go in or out. And eventually, at that point, you do it both directions. Then instead of pounding the door now, he'll sit there to ask for attention. Speaking of sitting, we talked about petting with a purpose. Petting with a purpose is if the dog comes up and nudges you or barks at you for attention, he's giving you an order, and he has like temper tantrums. And I want a chocolate shake. Well, if you give him the chocolate shake, then the kid's going to have a temper tantrum every day. The guardians right now, when he barks, they sometimes say be quiet. Anything your dog is doing when you pet it is what you're amplifying. But if you yell stop when the dog's barking, he thinks cool, now we're both barking, or he agrees. So we want to do it silently. Don't use the bombasticness because sometimes they won't hear you over their own bark. So basically, when he comes up and demands attention, instead of petting him and telling him you're right, we're going to give him a counter order. Tell him to sit or to lie down. If he sits or lies down within that 3-second window, I pet him under the chin, preferably. Proud dog has his nose in the air. Try to get in the habit of petting here. Pet anywhere you want, just never reach over the head. And so I say the word sit and only the word sit. And if he doesn't sit within 3 seconds, I turn the TV on, pull my phone out, read an email, read the paper, show him I got other things to do. Playing hard to get works great, as good for dogs as it does for human dating. So once he realizes they're not petting me anymore, and they're okay with it. They have other things to do to preoccupy them. Gage isn't petting me. After a while, he'll look forward to that petting. And then as soon as he sits, boom, you're petting him. So what you're teaching the dog is telling the humans what to do doesn't work, but asking does. Leaders tell followers to ask. So after a while, he'll start sitting in front of you to prepay for attention. When he does, make sure you pet him under the chin or anywhere you want, just not over the head, and say the word sit once, and then pet him for as much or as little as you want. If he's already sitting here, ask him to come sit over here or ask him to lay down. Do not ask him to shake. And so after a while, he'll start sitting to prepay for that attention. When he does, make sure you do pet at least once. Otherwise, he'll go back to doing what he wanted to do or what he was doing before, barking and demanding attention. Remember to use the watchword paycheck. If someone is petting without a purpose, that person should stop petting even if they did it right. Tell the dog to sit when he sits. Pet him on the chin, say sit. Actually, I asked to sit and you didn't see it, blah, blah, blah. Don't argue about it. Just do it again. Passive training is another thing that I do. Passive training is basically rewarding the dog when they offer desired behaviors on their own. Every time your dog comes to you without you asking it, pet it and say come. Every time it lays down, pet it and say down. Every time it sits, pet it and say sit. It takes for food. Come up with a unique word for each dog to eat. So when they take their first bite of food, maybe he is, salmon and he's steak, whatever you want to come up with. So every time, he hears salmon, there's food in his mouth. When he hears salmon, there's no food in his mouth. And having them eventually wait for permission to eat food, even though the bowl's right there and there's nothing but air blocking me, is wonderful development of self-control, and he needs impulse control. So let me see. So I say paycheck for petting with a purpose. I also say celebrate when somebody missed an opportunity to reward the dog for passive training. So if someone says celebrate to me and the dog's here, I just turn to look at the dog and I say whatever he's doing. If he's standing, I pet him and say come, because I assume he came. If he's sitting, it's pretty obvious, laying down, so on and so forth. So the more you pet your dog for the things you want, the more the dog will offer those behaviors. Right now, barking gets my guardian's attention. Pulling out the blinds gets the guardian's attention. For those blinds, remember to do that. For you guys, probably more than any of my clients, do that, the Roman blinds. I would do just the bottom until the middle of your window, and then pull your blinds all the way up. I mean, you can have them however you want, and just use the, buy the little attachment, so you can actually look out your own window. And get the film for back here for the bottom portion of both of these windows. So, and put it on both sides of the window. So he goes over there, he doesn't see the neighbor dog. Because the more he barks at people outside, and he's just being a guard dog. He just went and he was sentry there, sentry there. He's just going checking. He's always on duty. I think that's part of why he has all this cortisol in his blood. We need to demote him and help him go off duty. And recognize that humans tell me what to do, and the other way around is a great way to do that, and rewarding desired behaviors. Name all your individual toys. Not all antlers can be antlers, but you have, a nylabone that maybe call it like Thor's hammer, or something like. Come up with funny names for these things, so you can tell him, he comes up and wants to play with you. Say Thor. He has to go get Thor's hammer. No, that's the red ball. I want Thor. And then eventually you create this rich vocabulary. So anytime that they do things organically on their own that you like, pet them and name it and come up with a funny command word for it. Remember to come up with that fun command words, paste it on the refrigerator and say, vocabulary if somebody's using a different version of the word. Let me see, what else do we go over? I guess that's pretty much the summary that we talked about. The focus exercise above. Really make sure you get to that 7-second focus within 15-second focus within 7 days. And then start doing it outside. And the idea is, again, use that before he's reacting. Once he's reacting, don't try to use the focus. If you say focus and he doesn't look at you, either you need to practice it more or you're putting him in a situation that's too stressful for him to do it. Yeah, buddy, you look handsome up there. And so the more that we, eventually the focus becomes a tool that we can use to reduce his stress, the cortisol in his blood, and help him focus on us as opposed to all the other things he's getting in trouble with. Max. Hey, buddy. Gage. Max. Remember to use this hand motion. So have a treat in my hand. I go and arc over his head. As soon as he sits, I lower it, let him lick it off my hand. I tickle under his chin, and I say the word sit. sit. Well, this is Gage, this is Mag's back, and I'm David, and this is the roadmap to success. Remember, everything you do trains your dog, only sometimes you mean it.